can I ask you about how you choose your CPD? We talked earlier about you've had a long career already and lots ahead. So how do you choose your CPD, and what do you recommend to your team if they ask you?
Well, I changed how I did my CPD completely about 3 or 4 years ago now. I had one of those cases which was just awful. Everything that could go wrong on it went wrong. The opponent was awful. There were opponents abroad, there were interveners. It was just one of those cases where I had sleepless nights and just thought the worst case scenario all the time was going to happen. As it turned out, we got a really good result and we got a costs order. And when I reflected on that case, I remember thinking, I've spent so much time worrying about this, and for absolutely no reason. A lot of it was not, the other side were up in London. They were this really big firm and they used to write me really aggressive letters. And I just used to think, oh, they must be right. And so what I decided I was going to do, and this sounds a bit cheesy and it's not for everybody, but a lot of my team have been doing it, is I set up on my desktop something called a positivity folder. So it was every time something good happened or there was a good outcome, I would write about it. And I did that mostly so that when I was having a bit of an imposter syndrome moment, I can go on my desktop and I can go, actually, look at all these good things I've done this year, or look at these good outcomes I've had. I can do this job. So it was a bit of that as well. And that document sort of, it's progressed over time. And then one of the things that I do now at the end of the case is I go back in and I reflect on that case. Could I have done something better? What did I learn from it? And I often use that now as the basis for my CPD. So if I've had a really, really difficult case, family case, and there were lots of trusts, or and I think, well, I felt a bit out of my comfort zone there. Actually, what I'd really like to do next year is learn more about trusts. Where can I find out about that? And actually, if I'm struggling with that, then somebody else in my team probably is as well. And then I open it up to others in my team. And I found that a really good way of learning from past cases, but also then feeling more confident about going into, taking on those sorts of cases again going forward. So I sort of combined that with my CPD. And what I tend to do now is at the start of the year, I look at all the things I've done the year before. Where have I struggled? Where do I think I could learn from? And a bit like Stephen was just saying, and where do I want to be? What new things do I want to do? Do I fancy a challenge? Do I fancy doing something different? And what can I do to get there? And again, looking at my CILEX is brilliant. There are so many free tools on there, particularly for things like leadership, interviews, all those other soft skills. And again, I would echo what Stephen said about doing something different. I was a trustee at Citizens Advice. There are some Emmas here as well. We set the CILEX Devon branch together, but sitting on a board and doing something different opens you up to different things and teaches you new skill sets, which you can bring into your job. So I think the tip from me is a bit what Stephen said, really, which is we've all been there where we've left it to the last minute and seen it as a bit of a chore, but actually really use it as something that you think is going to be better for your clients. It's going to do you good because you're going to feel confident about it. Yeah, and you can pick things as well that that you're going to find interesting. So quite often I do something completely different that I don't do in my day-to-day job. And those soft skills are really important. So when we were talking about leadership courses, marketing, all of those other things can be a bit more of a fun element compared to just doing those sort of courses that you might go and sit in for a day learning about tax, which can be quite tough. So for me, it's about applying it to the cases that I'm working on, the cases that I want to have going forward, and a bit like Stephen said, where I see myself going in the future. So it's not for everyone having a positivity folder, but I really recommend it. I think it's a really good thing when you're having a wobble, and it's great for things like appraisals. So all my team do them. So when they have to say what achievements have you had this year, what good outcomes, people sit there and think, and I've had many people go, I haven't had any. And I've gone, well, you've won an award, you got this, you did this. People find it hard to talk about themselves. So if you've got it there, and again, if you want to apply for a judicial position, lots of the questions there will ask you to use an example when you've used judgment or and if you've got all of it there, it just makes it so much easier. So that would be my advice, and don't leave it to the last minute. It's very stressful.
Yeah, I hear you on that. Thank you. I agree with you completely. I'm a fan of the positivity folder. I keep one too. Used to be a book, is now a folder. I heard somebody once refer to it as a little book of magic, and it has so many applications. As you said, that, you know, thinking about looking at it if you've had a challenging time. Here at Brighton, when we meet as a team, we do a check-in, and that check-in often is something that you're celebrating and something that's challenging you at the moment. And when we talk about something we're celebrating, sometimes if it's been a challenging day, a week, or even month, you know, sometimes people will say, oh, there's nothing positive. And, you know, to be able to say, no, take a look back at that, there is. It's a human thing, I think, to focus often more on the negatives than the positive. Even though there might be less negative, it draws more of our attention and our focus. So to have somewhere, as you say, that you can look and see the positivity is just such a good thing, I think. And also it gives you a sense of direction. We can become quite process driven in our work, and so we should be. Processes are great, there's definitely a place for them, but we don't always take time to stand back and use our creativity and our problem solving skills. And if we've recorded something that went well, if you had that difficult case with those trusts, etc., but you did get through it, you know, and you can pat yourself on the back afterwards, then you can look back and think, this is what I did last time and that worked really well. Why don't I do that again? Or is there something else that's, you know, a bit of sort of out of the box thinking that can work as well? Definitely for appraisals, I think as well, you're right, yeah.
And I was going to say, I think as well, as lawyers, we're very busy. We finish a case, we go right on to the next one. So we don't often take time to stop and reflect, you know. And I've even done things where I've gone, actually, I was really busy then. I probably didn't give that client my full attention, you know, and so then that might lead on to a time management course. So there may be a whole range of things that come from it. And you can, you know, some of my team have used it to say, actually, yeah, I was really busy then. And that's now empowering me to say, no, I can't take any more work on, because I know that I probably didn't, you know, do the best on that case that I could have done because I had so many other pressures. So I think it can be used in a number of ways. Yeah,
absolutely. I agree. And I think it helps to give you a different perspective on feedback and on reflection as well. So rather than see that as criticism or negative, when you're looking at it from that perspective of I'm engaged in and enshrined in positivity, and that positivity is highlighted to me that there are some things I could do differently, it's not a criticism then, is it? You know, it's just a natural progression of, this is how I need to develop myself to be even better going forward. And I think the other thing you're right about is anything that you can do to avoid sitting through anything about tax is a good idea. Yes.